Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Oh yeah, here we go. June 12th. It's a Monday. I called it. I knew when I signed off on Thursday that the big news was going to drop. And we were not able to talk about it. And now it feels almost talked out, right? Well, I was thinking, actually, before it's all over, Trump will have, he still, if he likes to, can have stacks and stacks of boxes all over Mar-a-Lago, but this time there'll be boxes of indictments because we've seen him now. Well, as of tomorrow, he will have been indicted twice, and it's just going to keep on coming. He's a crook. He's always been a crook, and finally, he's going to bump into a measure of justice. You know what I've been thinking? I happened to see a picture of him with that loyal, poor soul who tends to his every need, who's also been indicted. The poor soul was like fixing his collar or something. You could just see a sort of tenderness and a meticulousness. This is his servant. Do they call them a valet? Is what I guess the term is, but I've also heard body man. But clearly, he might be the only one who Trump still trusts. This is a guy who refused to turn on him and will, like others who refuse to turn, go to jail. What was I going to say? Was that what I was going to say? No. Oh, no. Here's what I thought. So when the guy, I'm sorry. God, I hate those obvious senior moments where my aging brain totally lost track there for a second. So what a picture of this guy, tending to this awful. Actually, I have a great, I think this is by the guy who wrote The Wire, because his writing is it just always strikes me. And it is forever sort of so vicious when he's talking about Trump. It is. It's David Simon. He tweeted this. He said, and believe me, I swear to God, I'll get back to the point I'm going to make. He said, yes, he is the most pompous fistula of bloated self-absorption and ignorance ever to be an American president. This is a given. But I, David Simon, I'm still awed that this narcissistic idiot is on tape, rifling through documents, assuring others they are classified and proudly sharing them nonetheless. This pompous fistula of bloated self-absorption and ignorance. So here is that valet tending to the bloated fistula's collar with a tenderness that on his look on his face that akin to like a mother. I'm not kidding. Maybe you saw the picture. It's unremarkable in that it's just a picture of Trump's collar being straightened. But Trump, his face, he looks awful. I mean, awful. He looks like a bloated fistula. And here's what I've been thinking. I've been thinking this is going to kill him. And so while I think if he doesn't die, he is going to go to prison. That's my guess, eventually. But it's going to take so long with ability to, throw sand in the gears and stall that I think he's going to die before he has to go to jail. He is not physically well. How the hell could he be? And add to it the stress that even this narcissistic bloated fistula must, at some level, feel. He seems incapable of any kind of self-awareness. But you can, in your head, be incapable of self-awareness, but your body picks up on stress, even if your head's incapable of dealing with reality. Your body does. I think he's going to drop dead, and I'll be very sad because I want him to go to jail. I don't want him to escape through his own mortality. Anyway, so I'm also looking at a picture of the New York Times chose to put on its front page on Saturday. And it's a picture of the bathroom at Mar-a-Lago. I just have to say, what blew me away by this picture is not the boxes stacked to the windows, stacked in front of the shower. It's the grotesquerie of the bathroom itself. Who puts a crystal chandelier over a toilet? Just asking. Who puts it is, and then it's a crystal chandelier hanging over a toilet, and then behind the chandelier, this cheap white plastic shower curtain. What? This is Mar-a-Lago? Having never been there, I just made certain assumptions. I knew it was sort of garish because that's the Trumpian style. Everything overdone, everything too filigreed and covered in gold. Yeah, and chandeliers over toilets. But if you're going to put a chandelier over a toilet, then don't hang a white plastic shower curtain next to it. Dear God. Doesn't make any sense. Okay, so I had that reaction, and I'm maybe not the only. So the same Saturday New York Times, I'm paging through it. By the way, it's all old news. By the time I get the by the time I get the paper I can hold in my hand, I've read 3/4 of the articles, and everything is, been there, done that. So I ask myself on an almost daily basis, why the hell are you still paying a lot of money to have this rag sent to your house? And I really can't come up with a good answer, except that it's what I do. It's what I've done for over 50 years. I read the New York Times. I get my fingers blackened, my clothes blackened by its ink. That's what I do. But it doesn't make any sense. And then I think, well, there's the Sunday, there's this one little game in the Sunday magazine that I enjoy. That can't be it. I don't even like the crossword puzzles anymore. I've aged out. Or I've aged out one way or the other. Either they strike me as ridiculously easy, or they strike me as, what? It's pop culture stuff that I don't have a clue. Right. So, whatever. Anyway, I still don't know why I do it, and it's absurd, and it's a waste of money, and it'd be better if I, just took that money and gave it to somebody who could use it. But I'm looking at that same Saturday paper, I just have to tell you, and page 11 had 3 big stories on it. And it occurred to me as I looked at them that each story was about crimes. It was like a police blotter page. But these were all crimes being committed by Republicans. The Republican Party, we can call it a lot of things now. It ain't what it used to be, that's for sure. I haven't been a fan since, I don't know what, I was going to say Abe Lincoln, but I mean, there have been a few. Teddy Roosevelt had some good points. Dwight Eisenhower had some strong suits. But this Republican Party is now a neo-fascist, Christian nationalist, authoritarian, anti-democratic party. That's what it is. And it is home to crazy people, delusional people, and headed by the bloated fistula, grifters and crooks. And so, of course, if you're reporting on the news, it becomes, here are the 3 stories, by the way, are FBI said to investigate political contributions of right-wing spy ring. And I recall this story from a few years ago when it first broke. And then I never heard another thing about it. But it is literally a spy ring run by a former British spy who was hired by or hired with the money from a Wyoming heiress, a woman who came into gazillions of dollars because her daddy invented a fabric, Gore-Tex. Her name is Beverly Gore? Susan Gore, excuse me. So Susan Gore's millions and millions and millions have been what helped create and sustain this right-wing criminal spy ring that the FBI has been investigating. I mean, they take dirty tricks to a whole new level. And they're all about the British spy guy has trained a bunch of people in literally infiltration. So they infiltrate Democratic campaigns. Just so you know, any Democratic candidate, it would not be surprising if you were to find that one of your best, hardest working campaign aides turns out to be getting paid by Ms. Gore, because that very helpful campaign aide is spying on you. Okay, that's the Republican Party. Part of the piece says Republicans have sought to install allies in various positions at the state level. This is happening on the state level to gain an advantage on the electoral map. They've been found out in a few places, a few times, which is why the FBI was onto them and why I remember talking to you about this. Okay, that's one of the stories on page 11. Right under it is headline: real estate investor linked to impeachment of Texas Attorney General is jailed. And there we see a mugshot of a good Republican businessman who has been in cahoots and illegal activities with the Republican Attorney General of Texas, whose criminality, I guess, became so outrageous that even the Republicans in Texas impeached him. And the third story is, well, of course, he'd have to make the page. A guy who we know is going to jail. Well, Paxton will go to jail. And this one is Santos. Santos appeals order to reveal who put up his bail money. Crooks and grifters. So I thought, this is so bizarre. So this is the Republican Party today I'm looking at. This is part of it. This is a criminal aspect of it. And it's very much a part of it. And then you turn the page, and page 12 and page 13 and page 14, well, the headline is Trump put United States at risk, indictment says. And it's, it's continued from the front page. And it's just thing after thing after thing. I don't want anybody touching my boxes. Don't touch my boxes. You know, the emotional intelligence of this bloated fistula, I have at times said, he's like a 6-year-old. You know, he's less than a 2-year-old. When you read the transcripts and stuff, and you listen to him, well, you don't even have to. You just have to listen to him at those 2 rallies he did the day after he was indicted. He is incapable of forming a sentence that is not a lie. And again, what is most scary about this, that a man of this lack of character could have been elected to the presidency and still claims the devoted loyalty of millions and millions of our fellow Americans. That's the scary part. That's the terribly terrifying part. I know, it's a cult. It's the same, I'm sure, it's whatever happens when people get in the cult. But this is our country. Like I'm saying anything you don't know. Okay, so that brings us to tomorrow. Oh boy. Tomorrow will be the indictment. And there is, I can't imagine why, concern that there might be violence. Can you imagine? Now, he sort of called for his cohort to be there when he got indicted in New York City, and they didn't really show up. This one, maybe they will, but on the other hand, maybe they won't. And the reality is it only takes one lunatic to create terror and trouble. And this is happening in a location that does not have the history and institutional skill that a New York City police department has in terms of ensuring security. Now, you got the Secret Service involved, obviously, because he's, unfortunately, a former president. And so I sort of think, I mean, I'm not worrying about his safety. So, I mean, they don't want to hurt him. So I'm not sure what it is I'm worrying about, but it ain't like January 6th. I was reading a woman who apparently is an expert on this kind of thing. And she says a couple of things. By the way, her name is Juliet Kayyem. A couple of things to consider and weigh for the next few days is that, yeah, there's a lot of hot words out there, a lot of heat, but there's not a lot of apparent coordination of anything. This is not January 6th, she says. And think of this, the more established right-wing domestic terror groups like the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers are now, well, their leaders are in jail. They're at each other's throats. They are disorganized. But the reality is that Trump and those who support him don't have to, direct violence to one place or time, like tomorrow at 3 at the courthouse. They can, through their words, as he has been doing, and others too, can simply unleash it, knowing full well that some hero we don't yet know will be emboldened to act. This time around, unlike January 6th, Trump is not in charge in any way, nor can he direct any police or military assets. So I guess there's been a lot of hysteria about people thinking this could be like, January 6th. No. And by now, the local and state authorities and the Secret Service know this is not a drill. They know what his supporters are capable of. And, but then she says, still, this is Florida, not New York City. And the pool of people likely to support Trump is bigger. She says it only takes one. The guns are real. So I think that concern of the one-off, just one crazy, like Bowers here, is greater than some organized move. this time around. And the odds are that it'll just come off without a problem. But when we talk about the heated words, did you see the woman who, I think, she still has not conceded her defeat in the, Arizona governorship? Is this Carrie Lake? I have her right. Here's what she said Saturday. I have a message tonight for Merrick Garland and Jack Smith and Joe Biden and the guys back there in the fake news media. You should listen up as well, because this one is for you. If you want to get to President Trump, you are going to have to go through me. You are going to have to go through me. And you are going to have to go through 75 million Americans just like me. And I'm going to tell you, most of us are card-carrying members of the NRA. And the crowd went wild. And then she continued, that is not a threat. That is a public service announcement. That's your GOP. And then the first one I saw was a tweet that came from Representative Clay Higgins. Did you see that tweet? It was right after the indictment. Here it is. President Trump said he has been summoned to appear at the federal courthouse in Miami on Tuesday at 3 p.m. This is a perimeter probe from the oppressors. Hold, period. Our POTUS has this. Buckle up. 1/50K, know your bridges, rock steady calm. That is all. WTF. That's a member of Congress. He seems to be speaking in some bizarro militaristic code to the faithful. Know your bridges, like we got a plan. You're going to stop traffic on these bridges. No. And the 1/50K is like a map scale. So it's like militaristic crap. But that's the kind of crap that gets, people's attention. Un-effing believable. It is amazing that we can still be, surprised? Surprise is not the right word. Or even say, it's amazing we can still say amazing. Or it's unbelievable, I can still say unbelievable. As for my blackened fingers from reading the Times, Ellen writes, growing up in New York City, reading the Times was standard in my family. I can remember that my mom made a special apron for my dad to wear when he was reading the paper so the ink wouldn't rub off on his clothes. I, too, prefer to read the paper as a hard copy, though. I feel guilty about the environment, though I feel guilty about the environmental impact, yes. I'm sure eventually I will. Peace. I'm not sure where I saw this, and I'm sorry because I do like to attribute properly to sources, but somebody wrote about this Republican Party and its culture war script and how they create something out of whole cloth or out of the slightest little, like this guy Trumpka, who sits on, is one member of a commission, and he muses one day, you know, these gas stoves are giving off pollution. Maybe sometime in the future, we're going to have to ban them. Okay. And now the Republican Party, full on hysteria that the Democrats are going to take your stove away, right? I mean, this is so heated now. And it's not unlike what they do with anything. I mean, it's what they did with critical race theory. They say, it's being taught to our children in school. It is not. But all hell breaks loose. And people start attacking school board members. And everything heats up to this because the faithful, the cult members, are being told something terrible is happening to your children, CRT. The facts don't matter. The way it works is you conjure up a crisis. It does not have to be real, as we know, because these people have left the world of reality. Conjure up a crisis, whip it up, have your members of Congress hold hearings about it, have bills written to deal with it. The fact that it doesn't really exist doesn't matter. Drag shows is another one. But remember that. I thought that was a really concise, that's the playbook. And they roll it out over and over. Classic culture war script. Conjure up a crisis. The Biden administration is coming to take away your gas stove. And then force votes and hearings on legislation to counter that non-existent threat, keeping it in the news. Your freedoms are being taken away. So there actually is a bill now to save gas stoves. There's a congressman out of Florida, a Democrat, his name is Moskowitz, and he's pretty good at ridiculing this stuff. And in fact, he sits on the Rules Committee, and he was offering several amendments to some of these bills. He says, I don't think this goes far enough, the bill to save your gas stove. I am proposing renaming the bill the Appliance Bill of Rights, so that is put on a par with some of our most important rights as Americans. And I am proposing that we erect a stainless steel 6-burner double oven in Statuary Hall to give gas stoves the honor they deserve. Okay. God, that I-95 collapse in Philly. We feel your pain. I mean, that Fern Hollow Bridge wasn't as big a to-do as that. Jeez. And you know what it almost fell on? Would have been too wonderful. You know what's like under that area right there? It's not houses and stuff. No, it's more business and industrial. You know what that thing could have fallen on? Oh. A place called Four Seasons Total Landscaping. You remember that? That was the place that Rudy Giuliani held that press conference saying that Trump had won, the election was rigged in Philly. Remember? Everybody thought, I think they thought they were at the Four. I don't know what the hell. I don't know. But that's where it is. I thought that was a little note that you might not have noted. Oh, dear God in heaven. Okay. Let's see. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at all this. Oh, here's some good news. McCutcheon. Pirates. Last time I looked, they're hanging in there in first place still. Finished up a great homestand against the Mets, and Andrew McCutcheon had his 2000th hit as a Major League Baseball player. That is really cool. I still can't believe it. I mean, they haven't folded yet. They had some real slides, but they've clawed back. Thank God they're not in the greatest little division here. And something I have to tell you. I was at a party Saturday, just friends, backyard, and man, out came a dessert, which was like a strawberry shortcake, and on the top of it were 4 strawberries. It's a round cake. The 4 strawberries were almost covered the entire. They were like 10 times bigger than a strawberry is supposed to be. They looked perfect. They were these like the platonic ideal of a strawberry on steroids, and it scared the shit out of me. I immediately announced, I ain't eating one of those things. That is not normal. What is this love that Americans have for gargantuan? It doesn't mean it's better. It means it's been fiddled with. That's my guess. Fiddled with. Other people who were not as freaked as I said the strawberries tasted like regular strawberries. But God, I swear to God, they were as big as a baseball. Each one of them perfect. I have never seen strawberries this big. It's sort of like, when Honeycrisp apples came out. Now, what the hell is that going to feed a family of 5? Can I just have an apple? The first Woody Allen films, was it called Bananas? Wasn't there scenes of, these giant vegetables? I'm just saying, there's something wrong about that. And I know, I had the opposite reaction of what I suppose the bakers intended and what most people would have given them, which is, oh my God, look at that. I just wanted to run. So, did you watch the Tonys last night? If I have to tell you, something's happened to me, and I think I might have pointed this out. That I don't find myself enjoying musicals anymore. I don't know why. They just seem so. I remember once somebody saying to me a long time ago when I was into musicals, I just don't like them. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Somebody's talking, and the next minute they burst into song. So I don't know. I've become a little like that now, and it's not fair. So but the Tonys are, they usually put on a pretty damn good show. The problem this year was this, the Writers Guild is on strike, and it's writers that, write the stuff that the people on stage are reading off the teleprompters. So how the hell do you have a show that nobody's written? That's what they did last night. They had a show that an unscripted show. I tuned in specifically to see what the hell they were going to do. You know what? It was the best Tony Award show I can remember. And in that respect, it might have backfired in terms of the Writers Guild, because at some point, you know, you could so who needs writers? You got all these extraordinarily talented singers, dancers, creative people. Look what they can do right off the top of their heads and from the balls of their feet. So it was pretty mind-blowing. It really was. And I don't normally, as I say, give a damn. But it was impressive. And in a way, just cut right to the chase. If the whole idea of the Tonys is to award the best on Broadway and to show it off, I'd never seen it done better. I mean, I just thought it was amazing. I hope some of you saw it, including, you know, like me, as I said, who's not even that into it anymore. It's not just musicals. I mean, it's plays as well. And it was interesting because a lot of the winners were plays about what hate begets. It's almost like I think they should show some of these things at the Republican convention. Just a reminder to those Republicans of what a danger and a dangerous place they are occupying. So the musical Parade, which is about the lynching of a Jew in the South, in the early part of the 20th century, Leo Frank, and then Leopold stopped, which is a play written by Tom Stoppard, the great British playwright. And it's based on his life. Who knew? I mean, is there a more Britishy name than Tom Stoppard? It turns out he's a Jew? He didn't know, I guess. He's one of those people whose parents escaped with their lives, barely, and then created an entire new reality somewhere else. And you can see, I have trouble, because I don't think I would have done it, but I have trouble when they lost their Jewishness out of fear and wanting their children not to have to deal with this shit. So they become Christianized, blend in. It's what Jews have available to them that black people don't. I mean, some black people can pass, right? And some black people did. And I don't know about black people who can't pass and how they felt about that choice. It's a existentially eviscerating kind of choice. And I'd be hard pressed, I think, to come down too hard on anybody going one way or the other. But so Stoppard ends up finding out, just like Madeleine Albright, the former Secretary of State, found out, same thing. She didn't know. But it's not like Tom Stoppard's now going to become a Jew. I mean, he might be a Jew, but he's not going to become a Jew. It's not like Madeleine Albright stopped going to the Episcopalian Church and decided to become a Jew. So the Jews lose their folks in this way. Because it's easier for a Jew to pass if they want to. Anyway, the other thing that struck me, and I didn't stay up all night watching it, but was that so many of the people who won and came on to accept their awards were, not surprising, this is musical theater after all, gay. And they spoke of it, or a lot of them were fat. So there was a lot of fat people, gay people, all these groups that are, marginalized, that don't fit the ideal of what an American should look like, right? They were brown, they were black, they were fat, they were non-binary, they were this, that, and the other, but they weren't a bunch of svelte, cis, white, they weren't. And these are the best of the best. And what was so really wonderful is how so many said with such feeling and emotion that if you're a kid who happens to be watching this and you feel like, you don't fit in, know that you do. I mean, it's sort of empowering people who are always pushed to the side. I think it was the director of Parade that won Best Director, and he said he talked of his pain growing up as gay, and many of these people thanked their parents for, being there for them. And anybody who knows gay people whose parents are not there for them or weren't there for them know what an eviscerating cruelty that is. And usually in the name of God. But he said, is remembering his childhood. He said, I was called the F word. And here's what I have to say. And then, bang, the audio goes out. So I thought, oh, this is fascinating. What he has to say now is the F word, no doubt, and it's being bleeped. But I had the closed captioning on. And the closed captioning typist person was right on it. And what he said is, I'm a faggot. He owned it. And the place goes berserk. I'm not sure what else he said but how funny that the network, CBS, bleeps the word faggot spoken by a man who owned it, and the closed captioning put it right out there. There was something so absurd about this, something ironic. I don't know what the right word is, but yeah. No teleprompters. It was wonderful. I think they should do that all the time. I'm just saying. So, I mean, understand, this is a live show. So any mistake that happens, it happens. Doing live television on that scale is really totally akin to doing a, really dangerous high wire act with no net. And it was incredible. One of the funniest lines, I'm just remembering something. It was another director who won for, I guess the guy who directed the Stoppard play, Leopoldstadt. I don't know how it's pronounced. And can you imagine, you just won this, this award given to you by your peers saying you're the best. And he gets up on stage and the first words out of his mouth were, "I hate to complain." And I don't know that the audience laughed as hard as I did. That is the funniest beginning to an acceptance speech at an awards ceremony that I've ever heard. And I think it's quintessentially Jewish humor. It seemed, I don't even know if he's Jewish, but it seemed Jewish humor. I hate to complain, but and then he carried it off. I mean, it was a cute complaint, and really, really well done. Oh God. Okay. So a few things I have left, and believe it or not, they are happy stories. What was the amazing happy story over this weekend that you couldn't believe, and I still don't know enough about? Yeah. The 4 kids being found alive in the jungle, having spent 40 days by themselves. Unbelievable. The oldest 13, the youngest 1. Unbelievable. Survive a plane crash and then survive. It's just, it's the most mind-blowing story. And that, ladies and gentlemen, do you know how many, speaking of the Writers Guild, do you know how many screenwriters are clawing, just going berserk, trying to figure out how to get the rights to this? Whoa. Amazing. And I don't know that, I'll be patient and wait. I cannot comprehend it. And I have to tell you, if that was me, I would not have survived. A lot is made of the fact that these children were indigenous. Not to say primitive, indigenous, because they were on an airplane. So obviously straddling the indigenous world and the modern world. And yet clearly, probably, with knowledge of, I don't know. I'm really making that up now. I know the president of Colombia said something like that it was from their mother's womb, they knew how to survive this. Who knows? This is the kind of story where we all go a little berserk. Right? The other story is one I read, and I want to share it with you. It's an old story, but it's because I never saw it before. It's new to me. And it's a story of someone behaving so incredibly well. this guy, his name is Ivan Fernandez, Spanish, a track runner. And I'm not even sure when this happened, but it didn't happen yesterday or even this year. But this has to do with something that happened in competition where a race is being won, and the guy who was in the lead was a Kenyan named Abel Mutai. And for some reason, he became confused with the signage just a few feet from the finish line, and he's not finishing. And everyone else is behind him, and he's not finishing. He stopped thinking he had finished. And this Spanish guy running behind him starts shouting at him. You know, keep going, keep going. He's telling the guy, finish it. When somebody like Donald Trump would say, this fucking idiot isn't finishing the race, man. I'm not in it. But the Kenyan didn't understand Spanish, didn't understand what this guy's screaming at him. And so the Spanish guy catches up to him, and instead of passing him the few feet and winning the race, he pushed him across the line. And here's the part that just blew me away, because so many people do not have a moral core like this. And I don't know why so many don't. I don't know why. And it's not because they, I was going to say, well, some people say, well, it's because they don't believe in God or they're not religious. No, I think a lot of the people that don't have moral cores are people who believe in God and are religious. So after this race, obviously the journalists are coming up to the Spanish guy and saying, why did you do that? And he said, my dream is that someday we can have a kind of community life where we push and help each other to win. And the journalist is looking at him like, are you nuts? And he says, but why? Why did you let him win? And the Spaniard says, I didn't let him win. He was going to win. The journalist says, but you could have won. And the Spaniard said, but what would be the merit of that victory? What would be the honor of that medal? What would my mother think of that? Yeah. Why aren't there more people like that? Why? Why are people so willing to accept empty victories? They cheat to get. I've never understood cheating. I've never understood it. Because if you know you've cheated, how can you be proud? I mean, my idea of cheating is so intense that if I'm playing a friendly game of something with somebody and they'll say, yeah, I'll give you a hint, I'll say, no. I mean, I would take no pleasure in winning something that I hadn't done. It's just amazing to me. So this Ivan Fernandez, I don't know who he is, never saw a picture of him. I don't know, he might be 110 now. I don't know how old that story is. He is my hero. And there should be children's books written about that. And then Republicans, some concerned parent can have the book removed. Okay, that's it, guys. That's it for me. Thank you so very much. I will be back tomorrow, and Susan should be in tow. Have a good
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.